you have there before it's like totally under, out of control?
Well, with the nature of the homes in Fall River, with the balloon frame construction in the older homes, it does not take long for the fire to advance in the building. I mean, newer construction today with the building codes and such, it's more compartmentalized. The houses are more compartmentalized. But with the older three-deckers and the older tenements, the fires spread very rapidly and make a lot of headway even now with full complement before we get there. So with, again, increased response times and less personnel, it's going to be more difficult to contain the fire. I mean, basically you're looking at a window between 5 to 10 minutes before the fire is just out of control.
That's scary. I live in a six-family actually, so that's a little scary. But Mike, one thing too is when you respond to a fire, now me as being a former police officer, I've been to some fires and I've been to some real, really fierce fires. But who are the most important, the first guys to get there? Who are the most important to get there at first? Is it the search and rescue people, or do you have a pump that goes first? How is that, how does the fire department work?
Well, it depends. The way the city's situated now, it's really dependent on what kind of apparatus are tied up at other incidents and what kind of apparatus are available. So it's difficult to say. I mean, obviously we'd love to see 3 pumps and a ladder truck and the heavy rescue and a chief's car on the scene conducting a coordinated attack. Again, that capacity is going to be diminished because of the level of these cuts. So we don't know who's going to be responding, and when it's not so much the initial piece, but federal regulations mandate that there has to be a backup team in place before you make an attack on a fire. So that's going to be impacted. The ability to do that is going to be impacted. And it's really, at a fire scene, it's really coordinated. It's basically organized chaos because everybody has a job, whether it's from the pump, the people that are on the pumps or the people that are on the ladders or the people on our rescue. We all have a job to perform. And by the nature of these cuts, I mean, they talk about they're going to close the heavy rescue, and they're going to have one person responding with the heavy rescue. That was what the plan that was put forth is. There's no way that piece can operate in that manner to perform the duties that they're designated to do. So again, with the severity of these cuts, it's not going to be we're not going to be able to perform what's required in a timely manner.
Well, the mayor addressed yesterday too that we also he mentioned the normal citizen and how they're bracing about their unemployment and how we all have to work together. Again, that was his biggest thing in the beginning, but he didn't spend much time on that. He went on to some of the accomplishments that he had, and some of those are fire apparatus or police vehicles or even the pothole machine that he spent on. But in all actuality, that's all fine and great that we have those things, but if we don't have the manpower to work those things, why have them? And the other thing that I saw yesterday was the mayor was after he had his state of the city address, he was interviewed, and what a real good question was asked to him is how comfortable is he with the city's public safety and how is it going to be? And I feel that he kind of pushed it to the chiefs. He said that he had confidence in both Chief Souza and Chief Ford of the fire department, and he said that he's leaving it up to them. So I felt that there was kind of another passing the buck issue. If something goes wrong, the public listening to that are going to fall into that. It's your department's fault that you didn't get there and save my house. My house is burnt. Where am I going to live? Or the police officer couldn't get there because someone's at the cardiac arrest. Does the city entertain maybe the idea that the lawsuit, we have lawsuits every time, and we are self-insured, and that's one thing that I thought about is, you call the police department in 911, and everything's central dispatched at that police department now. Is that correct? The fire department?
Yes.
So everything's dispatched there. So that's a chaotic place. My biggest fear is someone calling 911, like I said, and not having someone respond there. The fear. That's going to, the fear of having no one save you is probably the biggest thing that anyone can be afraid of, and relying on the city services that they pay taxes for. I'd like you to touch upon a little bit on, on what I've said. Like, do you think that lawsuits might be a thing that would happen? If and would it go towards the police department? Would they, if the police didn't show up, do you think people would start, lawsuits would be coming, or people would be a lot more hostile towards the fire department, not getting there and saving their homes? What kind of chaos do you think that's going to bring?
Well, I'm sure that's a possibility, and I know that we live in a litigious society, and I mean, there's lawyers out there that want to, sue at the drop of a hat, and we're all aware of that. I mean, we're not living with blinders on. But I want to go back to the first thing you said, where the question was asked to the mayor about how he feels the departments are going to be able to function. He has full confidence in the department heads. I mean, if you remember, myself and my union took a very strong position when the mayor wanted to remove our chief from civil service. We worked very hard on that, and we were unable to prevail on that. But now that fire chief is under contract, so the fire chief directly answers to the mayor. Now, the interviews I've seen, and obviously, like yourself, you said you're tired, you've been busy. I mean, I haven't seen much TV, I haven't seen much of the news. What I have seen is that our fire chief has said public safety will be jeopardized. I mean, public safety is not going to be what it was, and there will be longer response times, and there will be issues. Again, I haven't seen what the police department, what the police chief has said, but I'm sure that he's taken the same position.
Well, I have the answer to that. I mean, the police department, Chief Souza has also said that, the commitment to service and commitment will not stop. However, there will be diminishing of response times. You will have to wait. Some people might have to go in and file a police report, and we've already heard instances of that already. People calling, a few cars. I just heard this morning, one of the kids in the school here that where we tape had said that his mom's car was broken into, and about 10 of them in a parking lot. And
well, we heard that last night at the council meeting.
Yeah,
I know there are several examples of that.
Council Pelletier brought up a good example of that. And what really bothered me was, I think people are misleaded on how public safety, the issue of public safety and how important it is. And even in this crisis, we understand that normal citizens, regular citizens, and not public workers, they do have a tough road ahead of them, just like you do. You all have families also, but without the protection of the public servant, I think that the regular citizen is going to be in worse trouble. Because I mean, it's not hard to figure out. Once, as we all know, the economy is falling. Okay, job rates are falling through the roof. People are losing their jobs every single day. I believe we're halfway near the Great Depression. Back then, it was 14 million people out of a job. I think we're about halfway there. But it's not hard to figure out that once the financial crisis, once the economy goes down, it's known the crime rate is going to increase. And one big thing, and I liked what you brought up about those 3 tenements. We have a lot of vacant 3 tenement houses around there, and the police department, that key role with the fire department there, they're the ones that drive around and look at those vacant buildings. Perfect, because now you might have some homeless people out in the street because they don't have a home anymore. Perfect place to sleep. And good place to cause a fire. You got 20, 25 people sleeping inside this vacant building, cigarette or whatever it is, and one of those old mattresses, and now you got a fire. Now what do you do?
Well, I mean, if you look at the example you gave me, the Worcester cold storage, the tragedy when we lost 6 brothers. I mean, that was what that was. It was squatters in the building that lit a fire to stay warm, and obviously there was loss of life there, and needless loss of life. And I mean, that's some of the stuff that's going to happen, and it's going to continue to happen.
Well, Mike, I know that that was the second time that we had a finance committee, which was very interesting. If I talk about the finance committee, that it's the first time that I've ever seen a finance committee without an agenda. I mean, if we're holding a meeting about finance or any meeting and we have no agenda, why have a meeting? That didn't make any sense to me. Did you find that there was something strange about not having anything on that agenda, but yet it was marked to have that special meeting?
Well, whether or not there's an agenda, the committee is meeting. And so if there's an issue that's relevant to the committee, I would think that would be something that the Finance Committee would want to talk about. So I agree with that. I mean, whether there's an agenda or not, if the committee's there and there's topics that need to be discussed, and obviously there's a sense of urgency with what's being discussed, why would that not be on the floor? And to their credit, they got through that and passed unanimously to have the meeting. So the issues did come up with regards to the layoffs and funding.
Now, to people that watched the taping of that meeting, we spoke about this before we came on the air. When are they going to meet again? I mean, because they were talking about 2 weeks down the road. But eventually, when I heard